In a world of jelly bean-shaped EVs, Hyundai IONIQ 5's origami sheet metal and retro vibe is a bold move. Solid range, fast charging, and excellent utility work well too. A high-performance version was expected, but the first drive of the 5N at California's Laguna Seca shredded expectations like these Pirellis. More than just thrust and suspension upgrades, 5N's simulated shifts and performance sounds, downshifting blips, that's awesome, made hardened automotive writers giggle like little schoolgirls. Waltzing down the legendary corkscrew felt like a Disneyland ride. I'm thinking about buying a new vehicle, and it will be an EV. Full disclosure, this is on my short list partly because of the experience that I had in California. Now, I realize those are not real-world conditions, and if I'm honest with myself, I'll seldom, if ever, track my own vehicle. Now, I have an advantage. I can call up the manufacturer and get a car for a weeks-long test drive. So this video is less about the high-performance aspects of the 5N and more about what it's like on an everyday basis. Can it be a daily driver? Unlike civilian IONIQ 5s that will be produced in Hyundai's new Georgia meta plant, Ns are bolted together in South Korea. Standard 5s are moving to the NACS charge port. No word on when the N will do the same. Vehicle-to-load ability remains. 5N's upgraded dual-motor all-wheel drive normally belts out 601 horsepower and 543 pound-feet of torque. Push the N grin button and it rises to 641 horses and 568 pound-feet for 10 seconds. Think Porsche Sport Chrono button. After 10 seconds of recovery, it's ready to romp again. Simulated shifts are called NE shift. Remember, the transmission remains single speed. There are no physical cog swaps. These adjust regeneration drag in some drive modes and toggle E shifts in others. Custom settings like N torque distribution and suspension firmness can be stored into memory for fast call-up, and that's handy since the deep menu has a learning curve. It can get confusing. The battery is 84 kilowatt hours. It can be pre-cooled before track outings. Lines from the air conditioning run through the battery. The motors and the pack get separate cooling channels. These slots lead to a low-temperature radiator. Below is the high-temp unit. 5N is all about scrubbing off heat. Hyundai says this will rocket up to 60 miles an hour in 3.3 seconds. And I think it's being conservative. Now, on a regular basis, you're not jetting off to Dairy Queen using that kind of velocity, but when you get the chance, it is a lot of fun. Oh, that never gets old. One thing though, Car and Driver did instrumented testing and found that when using the artificial shifts, it slows this car down a little bit. It hits 60 miles an hour in 0.3 of a second less. So yeah, it affects performance. But they're fun, right? They're not really a gimmick. I kind of like them, and you know, you don't have to use them. Internal combustion engine cars might have a certain appeal, but they can't be customized like this EV. Want more of a rear power bias? Just dial it in. Nearly every drive parameter can be tweaked. The 5N community is sharing settings for those that don't know where to start. For daily use, this car is like cutting butter with a chainsaw. But hey, chainsaws can be fun. With the suspension in its most compliant mode, the 5N is fairly comfortable, still a little on the firm side. Definitely not as soft as the standard IONIQ 5, which I find too floaty. Now, you can firm up the suspension, and if you do it all the way, it gets pretty flinty. But you've asked for it, right? It's for the track. There's a wide range to choose from. It's really pretty well done. There's actual feel coming up through the steering wheel. This reminds me of an electrified Volkswagen Golf R. Never high-strung, the Hyundai can be a terrific daily driver. And even in normal drive mode, it's a joy to sling around corners. Running errands, dropping off the dry cleaning, picking up groceries are all opportunities for a good time. So, in one way, 5N might make owners more responsible. Let's talk about the artificial shifts and the engine notes. If you have these engaged and you mash the throttle, it sounds and feels like a dual clutch transmission. There are manual shifts. Love the blips. Also, if you hold it too long, yeah, you hit red line. Very cool. Now, if I shift all the way up, I'm in 8th gear, and I hit the throttle, it bogs down like a regular ICE engine. This is very cool, very realistic. Being quiet on the outside is a huge advantage. The world and law enforcement will be oblivious to any tomfoolery. 5N is a stealth fighter. Upgraded brakes are the real thing. This weighs nearly 4,900 pounds. And it stops right now with perfect pedal modulation. The standard IONIQ 5 all-wheel drive long range is EPA rated at 260 miles of range. The 5N is a performance machine. It is of course going to be less efficient. It's rated at 221. Now in mixed driving, city and out here hammering it, I'm seeing about 220. So really, it's pretty much spot on. The excellent suite of ADAS features won't be used on the track, but adaptive cruise control, lane keeping, and automatic emergency braking are helpful on the road. Highway Driving Assist 2 is a good semi-autonomous driving system, but it's not up there with Blue Cruise, Super Cruise, or FSD. The N adds some $9,000 to the price of a loaded IONIQ 5 Limited, but the cockpit vibe is more utilitarian looking. The Pixel design gets a checkered flag motif that matches the exterior. Pilots have all sorts of information to monitor in the configurable gauge cluster. N has much less room between the seats. This leg and knee brace adds storage and functionality, but purses and backpacks will be going in the trunk or back seat. The small charge cord bin that's normally found here is eliminated too. The grippy H-Tech's heated performance seats hug nicely, but don't require gymnastic skills to get in and out of. They're manually adjusted, no power. I'm used to Hyundai's user interface and find it easy to use, with snappy response and solid layout that's easy to decipher. First owners will never pay for the Blue Link connected services. That's a win. There are some hard buttons, but the HVAC controls are not among them. That's a demerit. The phone charge pad is vented, and Hyundai now has wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, finally. Also, the latest digital key means phones can be left in pocket or purse. No sunroof or head-up display in North America. Other markets get those. This chair is optimized for my driving position. I'm 5'9", and headroom is not an issue back here. Same with knee and leg room, though you can max out cargo room or leg room. The backs recline, foot room that is a little bit tight. Cushions are high enough for good thigh support, and the door openings are big enough for easy loading, whether it's passengers or car seats. Phones can be charged. There is no separate climate zone, but at least there are adjustable vents. Kind of surprised there's no 120-volt outlet back here. Passengers will know they're in an N car, but I'm guessing they'd rather have a seat pocket. The bench is wide enough to take on 3 average-sized adults, for short trips across town. For long trips, stop at 2. For the best EV experience, charging where you sleep is important. It's more convenient and much cheaper than commercial terminals. At home, using 240-volt level 2, this will juice up from 10 to 100% in just over 7 hours, easily overnight. At the right DC fast charger under ideal conditions,
Charging started.
10 to 80% is 18 minutes, among the fastest in the biz. There is some storage under the floor, but no spare, only a repair kit. Rummaging around is easy. The floor edge drops into a slot, so it stays upright. There are no seat releases in this area. The backs are dropped by heading to the rear doors. Lowering them means a pretty flat floor and 59 cubic feet to fill. Hyundai calls the IONIQ 5 an SUV. For what it's worth, I would call it a hatchback. Whatever, it's useful. 26 cubic feet of cargo space means 7 carry-on suitcases should slide in, no sweat. The 5N is mighty tempting. A high-performance EV for half the price of a Porsche Taycan and just as engaging in its own way. Owners that never touch a track will enjoy the driving dynamics and the way this bends through corners on the way to the office. The Hyundai IONIQ 5N is a good reason to not work at home. Check it out at your local Hyundai showroom. It's a blast. For the Seattle International Auto Show, I'm Tom Voelk.